Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible for healing, one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. This one is called Love Initiation, Learning the Language of Soul. You guys, this was a special project. Our authors traveled from all over the world to Egypt, where we spent 2 weeks together exploring sacred sites with Egyptologist Emil Shaker and his phenomenal team and guides. It was a transformational experience, and the book is going to have an extra special energy for our readers. Before we start to talk to the authors today, just a humongous thank you to John Mercedes and Julianne Santini, our lead authors and guides on this project. You guys, they had such a big vision that started a year before we left for the trip. And thank you both for the curating the energy, the community, and every moment of really, I'm going to say the energy again of it. You were very particular and wanting to build that beforehand, but even the support team of awesome people who were sending energy as we traveled and supporting us from like literally everywhere in the world. So John and Julianne, I don't know, I'm impressed by you two every single day, the way that you thought about how you wanted this to work, and very, very grateful to be here guiding this book journey with you both. So let me introduce you to the amazing expert authors that I have with me today. Diane Marie Gallant successfully helps women who are ready to empower themselves to identify and conquer limiting beliefs, live authentically, and take confident steps toward a vibrant future by applying her skills, expertise, and knowledge as an intuitive life coach and energy healer for over 15 years. Reverend Dr. Mimi Kate Monroe is an interfaith minister who loves serving people in their spiritual inquiries, meeting them where they are right now. Tiffany McBride is a clinical psychotherapist, life coach, energy master, and teacher, ordained shamanic minister, expressive artist, and best-selling author who runs a private practice named Holistic Vibrations, utilizing holistic remedies and altered states of consciousness for those who struggle with trauma, addictions, and those seeking a deeper spiritual connection. Dr. Tracy L. Olshafer is the documentary filmmaker of The Earth Chakras, who conducts healing retreats for those who also wish to visit our amazing planetary power places. Oh my goodness, you guys feeling the energy and amazingness that I have in my Zoom room today? Like, I cannot wait to talk to all of you. Diane, you're going to start the party off. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for interviewing me today. My chapter title is Self-Mastery, Courageously Live an Authentic Life, and it's in chapter 16. And the reason that I wrote this is because it's a journey that reflects my own personal life. Due to my experiences growing up, I learned how to put others' needs ahead of my own. And to protect myself, I became a people pleaser. And this characteristic always went against my true self, my nature, my soul. I could feel how I would just hurt myself even as a young child. But this need to be accepted and approved of by others followed me straight through my marriage. So I came along in life as a mature woman, but still functioning as a child by not honoring what I needed. And I had to take a turning point in my life, an important step where I actually left a long-term marriage to go out on my own later in life because I was suffering from chronic stress symptoms, which couldn't be ignored anymore. So the whole chapter is around living authentically, really listening to your soul, listening to your inner guidance, your own compass, and developing the courage to do that. Because when you live from that place, you really are living from a place of authenticity And when you function from that place, then life just shines and you're able to attract abundance and fulfill what you came to fulfill in this lifetime. Because I am a believer in passion and life mission and serving others, and finding a way to include that in daily life is really not optional for me. I just couldn't ignore it anymore. So that's my chapter.
So, a lot of people are taught to serve everyone else and to, serve the needs of others, to help people, to help the world in that way. I don't really know one person around me who was from the beginning taught the self-care necessary to do that.
Mhm.
And so what's the most important thing you want people to know about those routines of self-care? What do you think we need to know?
I think it's important to just check in with your own heart energetically. And when you are responding to somebody and they're asking something, just don't live from your mind, include your heart and ask, is this a yes or is this a no? Is this my time to help or is this my time to take care of myself? And just weigh in with what the heart needs. Because in life, if you're not the one to fulfill something, that will be filled by someone else, potentially. And it's also a matter of boundary setting too, and what's healthy, because everybody responds to how we respond in life. It's like one huge mosaic and one dance. And as an individual, we're not meant to perform and provide every single task for everybody every single moment. So checking in with your own heart first is really, I feel, a commitment to self-care. And if it's a no for a reason, and take time to explore that and see what needs to be done, for yourself and your own self-care and nurturing.
Diane, when you say check in with your heart energetically, pretend I have no clue what you're talking about and tell
Mhm.
me how to do that. Like, and I don't need an instruction manual right this second, but like, some people will just do this and
Mhm.
just get quiet. And that's the first step. I want the first step to what you said.
Yeah, my way of doing that is to just begin to connect with my breath and just begin to breathe. And then also using my senses. Often it's easy to just rub your fingers together while you breathe and bringing you into your physical body. So when you bring your senses online, whether it's sight, hearing, touch, it really just helps you become more present. Sometimes people will use the word grounding, but when we're doing that, it allows us to psychologically zoom out. So instead of being in this reactive mind of reacting versus responding, living in that fight or flight or amygdala, reptilian brain to get a job done, we zoom out and it uses a higher mind. Where monks meditate, you'll see an activation in the middle prefrontal cortex. And that just with that relaxation that you feel, that's what happens. It's because you made a shift in your own chemistry and you're able to zoom out and detach from an emotion. So when you're able to detach from the emotion of what's happening in front of you, then you have this broader vision and you can consider what your heart really needs in this moment in time.
I love it. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for being here today.
Mm.
Mimi, it's your turn. Tell us about your chapter.
My chapter is called The Quest for Truth and Unity, Imagining a New Reality, and it's chapter 5. It's about looking at the world through the lens of love and also questioning the religious structures in which we live. And this has been with me since I was a young child, when I had an experience with a person who thought because I'm half Lebanese and he was Jewish, that we were trying to poison him. And it was my first experience of religious discrimination. And my family wasn't religious, so I was very surprised by this reaction. And it's been something that's haunted me. I'm also a third Ashkenazi Jew, I found out through 23andMe. So I used to call myself a walking war, but now I call myself a walking United Nations. And so this chapter is a bit about how can we rethink our righteousness and our being right in our faith, and my faith is better than your faith, thinking that we seem to have in this world, and the division that that has brought. When we were in Egypt, the war broke out in Gaza, and I had originally written another chapter about something completely different, more about falling apart and putting myself back together. But I kept hearing, no, it's time. We need to write about this. We need to bring this consciousness to the world. The US is in distress with division about who's right, and blame. And that's part of the whole picture when we get righteous about our beliefs. And that's a little different from being honest and truth and being in our rightness. But when we stand in this militant, I am right and you are wrong, we're basically screwed. Yeah, so I'm calling for people to come together, to find our common ground, and to do it through the lens of love.
Yeah, just that little thing you're working on. I know. And I mean that's how this book is too. And it's such a big thank you to all of you for taking on such topics that are world-changing topics, right? Mimi, how do you think we start? How do we start with somebody who is in that and blind to everything else?
I'm going to preface this by saying it's not an easy task. In some liturgies, there's a language. It says we are charged with changing the world, and we must do it one heart at a time. So I think the very first step is to get calm, as Diane was saying, to get to our own center and see where we're being reactive in the conversation with someone. And can we just set aside everything we think we have to be right about and stand up for and really listen? We don't have to agree. We don't even have to like what people are saying to us. But if we can really listen, maybe we can find the common denominator that we share. And every human being has a common denominator with every other human being, even if it's just being alive on this planet at this time. So let's find those common denominators. And that starts with us. I know for me, if somebody is pushing my buttons, let's say, and I don't need to agree with everybody, but I want to hear them. So I have to recognize first that I'm being triggered. There's a great buzzword, that I'm having my buttons pushed. And as a good friend of mine says, I didn't install the buttons, I just pushed them. So I'm responsible for those buttons. And I can choose to react or not react. Or as one of my spiritual teachers says, do I want to be in reaction or do I want to be in creation? And that's a choice we have to make all the time.
I love that one. That's powerful. These are, I call them ninja moves of awareness. These are the moves. This is the practice. This is big potato stuff here. And you all have been, this is lifelong practice for all of you. You all are master teachers of these things. Mimi, that one right there, do you want to be in reaction or creation? I picked creation. I don't know about you guys, right? But it's not always that easy. You have to check yourself every moment almost, right? Until it gets easier. I would imagine it's easier for you these days than it might have been 10 years ago, Mimi.
Yes, yes. And yet I still have reactions. I'm human, and it's getting in touch with them every time it happens and being conscious so that even if I do have a moment or several or more than that, where I'm in that reactive state, to catch it and be able to go back to the person, hopefully they're still there to go back to, and say, hey, I'm sorry, I wasn't fully present. Let's start again.
Yeah, brilliant. Mimi, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for this whole project. It's been illuminating.
All right, Tiffany, you're up next. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
So my chapter is chapter 13, and it's the quest for joy after loss, what to do when everything falls apart. So my chapter is about a friend that just passed probably about a month before we went to Egypt. And it was a really long battle. between, you know, friends, watching our friend, you know, struggle and then pass away. And it's about finding joy after loss. After someone passes away, your whole life changes because you really start to look at your life and see if it's what you really want and if you're really where you want to be. And it's about a quest, and my quest is ongoing for this joy because grief and loss is a funny beast as it just comes and goes in ways. But you know, it's about my promise to her about honoring her and her story and bringing her to Egypt and then honoring her in different places of, you know, the sacred places of Egypt and rituals and ceremonies and bringing her there and letting her light continue to be in the world. And us as friends, as a community that we were for Susan, continue to honor her every day. We celebrate her. We've had some amazing celebrations in her home, and her home has become a refuge for LGBTQ teens that have been rejected from their family, and it's a safe place that they can come to. Anybody can come to and just have community and feel the love of Susan. So it's a lot about, you know, just talking about this beautiful, amazing person and how to continue to grieve, but then also try to find the joy because this person has brought so much joy and love into your life.
Well, thank you for having the courage to share that story. Would you give us a little sneak peek into the practice that you're sharing?
Yeah, so I offer about 20 um, things that we can do when we face loss, and one of those things is to ask for help. Support community is the most important thing you need when you're going through something really hard. And so sometimes it's really hard to ask for help, but we have to. And the other things were about like self-care and making sure that you do share your story, that you get to express your tears or your anger or whatever you're feeling through a like art or music. And also really thinking about your life and seeing if it's where you want to be and say, do I want this? And go live your dream. So one of the dreams that I had was going to Egypt and to continue to follow my dreams because I want to bring Susan wherever I go because she had dreams too, and I want to help fulfill those dreams for her as well.
How amazing that you got to go there and then incorporate this story and how all of those little puzzle pieces fit in. I don't know. I think it's pretty phenomenal. Um, it's so hard to ask for help sometimes. Why? I mean, I think to myself, oh, we must have been taught it wasn't right to ask for help, but I don't even know if that's true. Why do you think it is?
I think that we in America are becoming islands when we are not meant to be islands. And so we've grown up being ultra independent and having a lot of trauma, which brings us into this place where we don't feel like anybody's safe, we can't trust. And so it's really hard when you have all these things that have been told or blocked you from seeing that there are people that want to help. And I put a resource in there about how to find help and how to find therapists and how to find coaches and how to find healers. And I think that's the first place that you can try is if you have no one and you have a hard time asking for help, start with a professional therapist or coach or healer because they're there to help you. And then, you know, hopefully from there you can grow and learn how you can ask for help.
Thank you for that. Thank you for being here, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me.
Tracy, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Thanks, Laura. My chapter is called Sacred Traveler, and the subtitle is The Reciprocal Healing of Our Inner Planet with the World. It's chapter 20. It was interesting. I was traveling from Egypt, which is a major power place on the planet. We all probably already know that. And I was going 4 days later to Peru, which is another one. And we had this looming deadline, so I was writing frantically on the boat, on the Nile, and every moment that I could get. And I kept writing these other stories, and finally, after a week, I realized, why am I not talking about this sacred travel that's so important to me? It's something that I've been just this quest for a very long time, and it kind of stumbled upon it. And my story is basically the first time I realized, wow, why do I feel so at home at this foreign land? And why don't I feel that way at home? What is it? What is it about this place that's stirring things within me? And so my chapter just kind of takes you through that particular story, and then plops in a couple of other power places that I visited and some of the unique experiences that I've had there. And really, for me, kind of what Mimi was saying at one point, that in order to heal the world, we have to heal what's within us. So that's this, this inner planet, our inner planet, in order we have to heal first in order to heal the world. But we can also do that by connecting with the earth in various different ways. So my practice kind of blends into that.
What do you do when you go home from the travel? You realize you don't feel at home and you have that burning urge to literally get up and move, but maybe you can't. So then what? Right? What
Yeah.
do you do with that?
I've come home and made lots of quick decisions that in hindsight probably weren't the best. I think it's important when you come home from such a powerful experience to sit with all of the feelings that you're having and the emotions, to ground into the earth, to feel your presence in your space on the planet, and to really feel what's true or right for you at that moment. Sometimes things will pass, and sometimes it's a very deep urge that, you know what, no matter how difficult this is, I have to find a way to do it.
I think, well, it's funny. I have a question for all of you about the travel today, so I'm gonna wait and ask that in a minute or two. But if you were going to share what you think is the most important thing about this, like urging people to do it, what would you say?
Urging people to
To
do,
do their sacred travel, to get out there, explore.
I think what I also wanted to say in my chapter was, some people don't have the means to travel, or a way to travel, so you can cultivate um, a place right where you are that's meaningful, that has a connection to the earth, that helps you to ground, or helps you to feel connected and find your truth. So I don't want people to think they have to spend a ton of money and go out and travel. Um, but if you feel called to do that, I think that there are some really fantastic places in the world that you can go. And every time I go there, I experiencing these new levels of healing for myself. Um, so that's kind of what I'm hoping people will do. If you can't just immediately go out and travel, then find a way at home, somewhere that's good. It's a park or your garden, or somewhere, close to you, that's manageable for you, where you can cultivate this energy and connection.
And that's what's so fun about that idea, is because it could be a walk in your neighborhood. It could be a park you haven't been to yet. It could be just the next town over that you've never driven to yet, or it could be anything, right? That's what's fun about that. You definitely don't have to like get on a plane to do something different and just be inspired.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for being here today, Tracy. And thank you to all four of you. Thanks not just for saying yes to this project, but for stepping up to the challenge I gave you. Your stories are vulnerable and raw, and I wanted our readers to feel that connection with you, and you did that brilliantly. And then, as the master teachers you are, you stepped up with a practice. So I want our listeners to understand what's in this book. The stories are healing themselves alone, but then you're going to have a practical experience, an exercise, a tool, a practice that you can do from these authors' chapters. They're just brilliant, ladies, totally brilliant. So, Mimi, I'd like to start with you for this next one. This book is called Love Initiation, Learning the Language of Soul. What's the most important thing you want people to know about the language of their soul?
Mhm. Ooh, that they already are that. And that there's nothing they have to do or become, but that to listen within to their own heart space is the most beautiful thing they can do. And Diane talked a little bit about connecting with the heart. I think, and Tracy about connecting with the heart of Earth, and Tiffany about connecting with the truth of the heart. So for me, it's listening, it's being present, it's allowing myself, which is not always easy because I live in the mind a lot, but allowing myself to be present, to be fully with other people when I'm with them. And so inviting other people to just be present, to notice the trees, to notice the sunlight, to take just even a brief moment to notice the breath and be
Yeah.
grateful.
Yes, so much to be grateful for, and such a powerful, it sounds so simple, but it's one of those things that is so profound. I don't really do resolutions, but if I had one for this year, it would be to see how many moments when I'm in the presence of another human, I can practice what you just said. And really, really look away from the computer, look away from the phone, and come back and be present with the people, especially my inner circle, the people I love and am around every day, right? So important.
And
Tiffany, how about you? What's that most important thing you want people to know about the language of their soul?
That even though we go through really hard stuff in life, it brings us to the best places in our life. And it's always an opportunity to relook and choose if you want to stay in the suffering or if you want to go in the direction of your own joy, your own joy, not anybody else's joy. What does your heart say? What does it want to do? What's the things that you want to accomplish before you die? That's what I think it is.
I like it. I love the way that you're both answering this question already. It's really, you all are, this is the reason I love the collaboration. So we need every single answer. We need all of the ways to hear it and all of your very unique voices. Tracy, how about yours? What's that language of soul to you?
I think the most important thing, I want to say just ditto, by the way, but
I know.
you know,
To
was
everyone, I
so
know.
eloquent. But your truth, my truth, only we know what that is. And so listening deeply within to what is that truth and honoring that, stepping out of our head, because as Mimi said, that's the place where illusion, ego, all the different things that aren't of love come from. So if we can stop the chatter for a moment and just really get quiet and sit in our heart, and then listen to our own personal truth, it's not always going to be what others want from us, and often we'll get a little kickback from some people who don't like what we're saying, or want us to change maybe, or whatever it is, but we have to be truthful to ourselves, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Um, you all have my mind moving in, but you said everything that isn't love will come in that way. It's about awareness, right? And when we are aware of these different things, we can discern, we can pause. With awareness, we get a choice. That's why this is so important. Diane, what do you want to add to this? What's that thing you want people to know about the language of their soul?
I consider it to be listening to the master teacher, which resides within us. It's like an internal guidance that is constantly there. So viewing it like a compass, like a soul compass. And for me personally, if I ignore it and even not even choosing against it, but just ignoring it, then that hurts a little piece of me inside. It's almost like a little piece of me dies because it doesn't get to have the full expression that it's aching for and calling out for me, to live in this fully empowered place, that positioning myself in a way that I can live a fulfilling and thriving life. So the language of the soul is connected to the heart, but it's connected to prana and breath and just life itself. So if you have the courage to listen to it, then you really are saying yes to living to your highest potential in life, because it always has your own higher wisdom and your own highest and best at mind. So this is the courage that I talk about in living authentically. And like Tracy just referenced, is oftentimes, especially if you've lived your life in suppression, it can really feel like it's going against your very life itself, because it's providing a fork in the road. And for me, it's like, do I have the courage to take this fork and I have no idea where it's taking me? It's like that blind faith. Or do I stay what's familiar, even though it doesn't feel good? So again, this all just goes back to the master teacher and having the courage to listen and follow when we can't see what will be provided. So I think of it too like a firewalk. Yeah.
If you have the courage to listen, that
Mm-hmm.
language, yeah. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
What do you want to add, Mimi?
Just two things. You said the word practice, Laura, and it's practice. So we're conditioned to behave in the ways we've been conditioned to behave. So practicing something new is just that. It's a repetition of something new until the door opens into that being what we live. And Tracy also said it may go against what other people, or it may look like, not look like what other people think it should look like for us, but it might also not look like what we think it's supposed to look like for us.
Good
So
point.
just being that open vessel for what shows up is a big part of this too.
Thank you. Okay, so Tiffany, I'm going to start with you on this one. The travels, I love that Tracy's thing is really about the travel, whether it be the inner travel or the outer travel. But I love this question for all of you. I'm going to start with Tiffany. Travel is really transformational for so many reasons. I want you to inspire us with one. I know it's going to be hard, but one of the powerful moments you remember from Egypt. And I'm going to model this because because I know you guys have 100 of them. I know, right? Um, for me, if you've listened to the other interviews, you're going to hear me talk about the Hatshepsut Temple. But actually, since Tiffany is in this interview, I'm going to say I have no idea what temple we were in, but it was one of the moments where we sang. And Mimi also, there's some badass singers in this group, but Tiffany was standing next to me that day. And the uncontrollable sobbing that happened to me, through me, with the vibration of her voice, I think because you were so close to me, but also it was the whole room, it was the chamber, it was the sound, it was everything. But your particular love energy, my dear, did something for me. There's so many moments that we could talk about, right? Tiffany, what was one of yours?
I would say it was like the last thing that we did when we were in the King's Chambers, and we were just channeling some amazing, beautiful, vibrational singing in that place. And I was in another place. I was totally in bliss. I loved it so much. That was one of them.
I love that you said bliss. I think that we touched that in Egypt. I know I did, and it was different than anything I had felt before. So I think that's all I can really say about that. Tracy, what was a moment for you?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on the King's Chamber.
It's been talked about several times already. Yes.
You know, the whole trip were these little tiny remembrances that kept popping up, but particularly with a few people. And at that culminating moment at the end of the trip, 4 of us were on each corner of the sarcophagus doing energy work while everybody got in. And at the very end, 2 of those people got in together, and this remembrance just kind of expanded so wide. And all 4 of us remembered each other at that moment from another lifetime in Egypt. And we remembered losing each other. I'm gonna cry now. And it was really, it was huge. In fact, it's still kind of huge for all of us. We're still decoding it. It was big.
I remember that moment as well of those 2 people. And that was definitely another one of mine. Like, you're giving me goosebumps now talking about it. Oh my gosh. This is what you're going to feel when you read the chapters, you guys. And this book was put together with so much energy and intention. And then it continued through our trip in these powerful moments. Diane, what was one of yours?
Well, I've been tossing back and forth which one to talk about for, for days in my mind, and it's going to be the King's Chamber. So I had this moment of holiness and reverence because prior to going into the King's Chamber, we're actually in the Queen's Chamber. And some of us were assigned this preparation role to prepare to go into the King's Chamber. And I was selected to anoint everyone. So I had a blessed oil from a guru and was able to bless everybody on their third eye in preparation. And for me, that was a total remembrance for me because I have a deep connection and of reverence with Mary, Mother Mary, but also Mary Magdalene in the Essenes and that whole part of living. And to actually be in that role was just very familiar, and it just really filled my heart because I know that is part of me and this genetic lineage. In traveling too, I had this knowing the land codes and knowing where I was when I was in southern France, those Magdalene lands. So that was, again, just confirmation of the sanctity and the mystery of life and how it just guides us when we're not even consciously choosing, and we just are living from that heart again and following these soul paths. So that was just a very beautiful moment for me and very fulfilling in all aspects of my whole being.
It's hard to describe them, isn't it? Like, it's just so big. Okay, Mimi, tell us one of yours.
So mine is also the King's Chamber.
It was a powerful place, y'all.
It was
Powerful
amazing.
place.
Yeah. And for me, it was the chanting. And there was this, it was this body, it was chanting, but it wasn't me. And there was something about the counterpoint and the unity of all the voices together that just, I mean, I think I was standing next to Tiffany and Marion, who's on another interview, and I know there were at least two other people who were chanting, and I dropped away. I just disappeared. And the music was rising up through me and in response to what others were doing. And it was just, there was such a feeling of unity and beauty and grace and not me. So again, I was the vessel. So definitely me too, but not this me, the heart and soul of me. And the connection of this heart to all the hearts in the chamber. And for me, that was, as Tracy said, the culmination of the trip, the apex. And interestingly, we're in the apex of the pyramid. So yeah, just whew, I wish we had a recording of it so I could hear it because I was so busy in it. But there was something magical, really magical that happened in that chamber, and the connection I think we all had, whether we were chanting, holding space, anointing, climbing in the sarcophagus, not climbing in the sarcophagus. There was just all the travel, all the talk, all the egos just dropped away, and we got to be together as one. And our guide Emil kept saying, move as one, move as one. And I think this was this moment where we were just being as one. It was sensational.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you to all of you for bringing us back for a moment or two. I have one more question that's a little bit geared more towards our listeners today. You know, our Brave Healer authors have dedicated their lives to this healing journey, you guys. You're staring at 4 of them today, maybe 5 if I include myself. And I am just so grateful and honored to be on this path with you all. You practice awareness at a level that impresses me every single day. So I thought we could offer a practice to our listeners today. You know, when you're having the impossible day, that day when overwhelm is kicking in and it's just not a great moment, maybe we could offer a simple practice that helps us in those moments. Maybe it will also help our listeners. I know for me, it's moving that pen on my notebook, and I just move that stuff that's in here out to the paper. I write to feng shui my soul. Having a really bad day, I can use that as an energy shift and really have an immediate result, which is quite amazing. Tracy, what would your practice be that you want to offer people who are having that kind of day?
Yeah, I love anything about energy. And when you have this kind of charge or feeling inside of you that's building, or the pressure needs to come out somehow. So when I taught yoga for a long time. One of my favorite things was the surrender breath, which was this deep inhalation, but this big audible sigh. But I would say to add like some shaking with it, like as you're sighing, just shake it out or strip it off, bang your feet on the ground and just really, get into your body, into this visceral sensation, but also letting it out with the breath and let the charge go. So if that pressure cooker's up to here, let the lid off and, and let off the steam. It really changes you.
Just the name of that surrender breath sounds fabulous. I love it. Diane, how about you? What is yours that you want to offer?
Well, I'll expand on what I said earlier in the interview, and it's connecting within through breath and touch and senses. But then when you get to that space and you have that open awareness and you can just listen to the whisperings or the shouts or whatever it needs to be expressed coming out of you. And I like to do it too with writing. And intuitive writing, flow writing, channeled writing, spirit writing, whatever you want to call it, automatic writing, but you just let it flow and you don't let it come through your mind, you're letting it come through your heart and your soul. So the encouragement that I would share would be just to write without censoring what you're writing. Don't even look at it. You can correct it later if you need to, change words or you can't read what you wrote, but you just let it come out because there's always a layer behind the last one that you just wrote. And you get the opportunity to go deeper and deeper. To me, it's like following the deepest current that's at the bottom of the river. And that's where you want to go because that's where the jewel is. So just being able to again drop into that process and just allow your own soul to reveal what needs to come out now to support you in this moment in time.
Beautiful. Thank
And
you.
and be grateful.
Gratitude is its
Yeah.
own amazing practice. Mimi, what is your version that you'd like to offer the listeners today?
There are so many, and what comes to mind is the hardest part is recognizing that we're in that rat race of our mind. And so just the minute we realize that, do something that disrupts that, like clap our hands, just say stop and reframe. Take a deep breath. Breathing is always a way to calm the whole nervous system. So there are plenty of exercises, but the first thing is stopping, just doing something to disrupt the process.
Yeah, it's maybe first step, disrupt the pattern, notice the pattern. You got to notice the pattern before you can do anything. Ninja moves. Do you hear them, you guys? You hear all these ninja moves? These are amazing. Tiffany, you are going to close us out today, girl. Tell us what yours is.
Well, we all have heard of triggers, and there is something that's called glimmers, and that's the opposite of triggers. So when we are triggered, we're feeling that buzz in our nervous system, think about your glimmers. What has brought you joy for that day? Look outside. Just go, oh, it's so beautiful outside. You know, you have a cup of tea in front of you. Notice your glimmers, and that will bring you back to the present. It'll also bring you back into gratitude, and it will shift you into your rest and digest part of your nervous system, and you can relax.
Oh, I love ending with glimmers, you guys. That's brilliant. There's 4 of my glimmers right here in front of me on my Zoom today. Thank you. Tiffany, Tracy, Mimi, and Diane, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
So, you guys, if you heard something today that gave you the goosebumps, made you curious, you need some support, this is way more than a book that we put together. It's a very generous community. Drop down into the show notes. I have all of the authors hooked up with their links for you. Reach out, explore what they're up to. It's powerful stuff, and they are very generously there waiting for you to reach out. We talked about how hard that is sometimes, but really it's only hard if you think it is, right? Have a little click today, and someone will be there for you to help you take the next step on the journey. And of course, you're all invited to our book launch party. We're going to gather with all of the authors of Love Initiation on February 14th. Of course, we're going to gather on Valentine's Day for our party. You can join us on Zoom. I have information down below about that. And if you're listening to the interview anytime around that date, you can hop over to Amazon by then, and the book is ready for you. Lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.